So your ex apologizes. He reaches out, he says that he's changed and he's asking for another chance. How do you know that your ex has really changed? How do you decide if you should give them another chance or if you should just walk away for good, right? How do you choose? Because there are two paths. There's reconciliation and there's release. How do we choose which is the best path for us? And before I get started, I want to tell you, this is not a video about how to break up with your ex. Like how to reject your ex, how to walk away, how to release your ex forever and never come back. This is for if you are trying to decide whether you should take your ex back or not, and they have reached out to you and they are interested in reconciling. So you're trying to decide if that is the best thing for you or not. This is for that. This is to help you with that. And I'm not going to tell you whether you should reconcile with them or release that, because there is no right answer that fits for everybody, right? I don't tell my private clients that they should break up with people. I help them to make that decision in a way that feels really good to them so that they can feel settled and happy about their decision and do the thing that best helps them have a good life. So there's no automatic right answer, because really, like, no one can tell you when you're finished learning what you need to learn from a relationship. No one can tell you that. You're the only one who can tell yourself that, and your inner wisdom is always sovereign, no matter what other people, say about your relationship. So let's just talk about reconciliation and release and what those two paths look like, and we'll start with reconciliation. Sounds different. What's going to be different now? What do I need to be different in order to reconcile, right? And a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, when I ask my clients this question, the big thing that comes up is they say communication, because that's huge. And often communication covers a lot of different areas besides just communication. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. When we say we need to have better communication in order for this to work, sometimes what that means is we're talking about initiating conversations. We want them to initiate more of the conversations. Sometimes it's that we want them to stay really present even when the conversations are difficult. We don't want them to bail emotionally on us when we're talking about difficult things. Sometimes it's that we want them to repair with us instead of shutting down. Sometimes it has to do with wanting them to take responsibility for the things that they've done that contributed to the breakup or contribute to an unhealthy pattern in our relationship without getting defensive about it, right? But some of those things aren't actually about communicating. If we think about it, some of those things are about having a new pattern of care and of commitment, right? And a new pattern of accountability. So that might be what we're asking for underneath that request for better communication. And that's worth looking into, right? Because you may feel like your partner didn't show you that they cared in ways that felt like love to you. And so you become more and more clear about what you need, what feels like love to you. And when you think about these things, it's not just something that's helpful for you in terms of deciding if you should take someone back. It's also helpful in terms of just deciding in any new relationship, what do you need to have to be happy? What are your needs? And that might be a question that you don't have a lot of experience asking yourself. You may not be really comfortable with asking yourself that question, what do I need? Because you could be more used to pushing your needs down in order to just create peace and keep the relationship moving forward, So thinking about those things, like what needs to be different for me now? What would it mean, for them to have changed? Does that mean now they're initiating more communication with me? Does that mean that they are staying present, when conversations are really hard? Does that mean that they are doing things that are more supportive than what they were doing before? Those are things that we want to think about. So that's the first thing we're thinking about in terms of reconciling, is this idea of like, what needs to be different? What needs to be different for me in order for this new version of the relationship to happen? Because it will be a new version of the relationship. The old relationship is over. The old relationship is dead. It's done. So now it's about, okay, if we're building a new relationship together, what do I need that to have in order to move forward? And now, once we've thought about some of those things, we have a good idea about those things, we really want to think about the relationship in terms of like, I call it giving the relationship like a season of discernment. So when you get back together, if that's what you decide to do, you want to take some time, usually about 2 or 3 months, where you keep your heart still and you keep your eyes open. So what you're doing is you're kind of gathering information about whether those things that you needed to be different are actually different. Are you seeing a difference in action, or is it just a difference in words? So that's the period of time where we're seeing if change is actually happening, or if we're just hoping it would happen, but things are actually the same. And during that time, there are a few things that I want you to do to keep yourself safe and to keep yourself on track, because I know you've been building a beautiful life since you broke up with your ex. I know you've been building a life that feels really good to you and a life where you feel safe and happy. So I want you to protect that during this whole season of discernment. You may think of it as a probationary period, but we're going to call it a season of discernment. And during this time, you're not going to move in together. Keep your place. Keep your own place and support yourself and live independently. We're not going to combine finances. We're going to keep our finances separate. We're going to continue with our financial goals. We're going to continue to pour into our career and all of those kinds of things. We're not going to make major commitments about the future with this person yet. We're going to see how it goes, because you do not have to decide right now in this season of discernment whether this person is your forever person. You don't have to do that, love. It's okay. You can give yourself some time to make that decision, because it's a huge decision. Your choice of partner impacts every area of your life. It impacts your health. It impacts how good of a parent you can be. It impacts your finances. It impacts your career. It impacts everything. So take your time. You don't have to move forward faster than you want to. During this season of discernment, please practice safe sex. Do not get pregnant during this season. Do not do that. Wait, and if that's a decision that you want to make later, make it later. We don't have to. There's too much birth control out here to be getting pregnant on accident, especially at this big age. Okay, so don't get pregnant. Just don't do it. Wait. It's not, a couple months isn't going to make a difference. If they turn out to be a person that you really do want to move forward with reconciliation, a couple of months is not going to make a difference. But wait, keep your eyes open, keep your heart still, see what's going on, and don't get yourself into a situation that's going to have lifelong consequences. Okay. A lot of times people will spend a bunch of money trying to prove that they're lovable, trying to get their ex who's come back to really value them this time. Don't do that. Keep your hobbies, keep your routines, keep your friendships, keep going with your career, keep going with your goals. Stay committed to yourself, stay committed to the life that you're building so that it will be beautiful whether they are in it or not. And treat it like a new relationship. Treat it like you're gathering information to see if it's going to be a good fit, because you're new and they're new. You're both different people than you were when you were together before, right? If you weren't, there would be no point in reconciling or even considering a reconciliation, because you already did that, right? So your new people in a new relationship, take some time to gather information to see if it's something that you want to commit to long term. And another area of reconciliation that a lot of times people don't give much attention to, because they're so excited to be back together and they're kind of like swept up in the, they're swept up in the chemistry and the reunion. And it's like when someone has an addiction, right? And they are, they abstain for a while and then they fall off the wagon. There's like it's like euphoria, right? I don't mean to reference the TV show, but seriously, there is a euphoria with that, right? Because your addiction is being fed again. You're getting that dopamine again, and for women, we're getting that big oxytocin, surge that's telling us that we're bonding with this person and it's us against the world and all those kinds of feelings. So sometimes we want to skip over the things we really need to do in order to recognize that it actually is different now and to rebuild. And one of those really big parts is repair. Repair is huge. Repair is that process of rebuilding trust after somebody has been hurt. So, we don't pretend that the hurt never happened. We talk about it. We talk about it. We both take responsibility for our part in it. We both apologize for what we've done wrong. We both make space for each other's feelings, and then we back up our apology with new actions and behaviors. So apologies are not the same. Apologies by themselves are not the same. An apology just says, I regret what happened, right? I'm sorry about what happened. But repair says, I will put the time and the energy into rebuilding with you because this is important to me. And repair comes with a change in behavior after the apology, right? Repair comes with, accountability and patience and consistency, and it comes with emotional maturity. Those are really important things that have to do with repair. So if the person is like, why can't we just move on, right? A lot of times, we're thinking about somebody that wants the benefits of a relationship without actually doing the work of rebuilding it, right? They don't really want reconciliation. They want comfort. They want to return to that status quo. They want the things that they felt familiar with, right? And a lot of times we might be the one who's trying to push through because we just want to go back to when things were good, and we have forgotten how we had to put ourselves back together, and how much that took out of us because we're kind of in that euphoria of feeling like, well, maybe this time it will be different, or we're reliving the things that we love because now we're experiencing them again. So, we're kind of in that place. But when people actually regret the choices that they made in the past that harmed you, they are actually happy to see a path to redemption. They're glad that there are specific things that they can do to make up for the harm that they caused. They're not trying to skip it and just get to the part that was comfortable. Usually they're only doing that if they're more concerned with comfort than they are with actually like your healing, your well-being, and those kinds of things, right? Healing isn't about like how quickly we can stop talking about the past. Healing is about how safe we feel because of the changes that we're making now. How safe we feel because of what we're doing now, not about how quickly we can stop talking about the past. So I hope that makes sense. So if we have all those things in mind, sometimes releasing the relationship is the healthiest choice, and we might come to that conclusion, right? And it's important to know that even if someone is putting energy into reconciling and maybe they are wanting to rebuild, you may still come to the conclusion that the relationship you had has just run its course and that there was too much damage for it to be repaired, or that it would just be impossible to restore trust at that point, or that maybe you have continued to grow, but this other person hasn't. And it's okay for you to bless that relationship and be really grateful for and really celebrate the love that was part of it and the goodness that came out of it, and remember the good things that were a part of it, and the special times that you shared, and the things that you did together, and what you learned about yourself, what you learned about life, what you learned about love, all of those things, and still release the relationship. It's okay for you to do that. And sometimes it's necessary for you to do that because it's the healthiest thing for you. It's okay to bless it and to move on. What's important is that when we're making that decision, we don't make it out of scarcity. We're not making it out of, FOMO. We're not, anytime we're making a decision out of scarcity and out of like FOMO, it's not going to be a healthy decision for us. If our mind is thinking things like, well, what if this is my only chance to be chosen and loved? Or what if there's nobody else out there for me in the whole world? Or what if, this is as good as relationships actually get, right? If we're thinking those kinds of things, we need to really take some time out and regroup, because it means that your mind is being really mean to you, and it's being really scary, and it is lying to you. And it's telling you some lies about how lovable you are, and some lies about how available love is for you in the world. And that's a time where we want to just take some time out, and we want to really tend to our own self-worth and rebuilding our sense of self and our identity. We want to dig into healing. We want to dig into self-love practices. We want to start rediscovering the things that bring us joy. We want to talk to people who know us well and love us. We want to get outside and have sunshine on our faces. We want to touch grass, as the kids say. We want to move our bodies and breathe deep and get good rest and drink water. We want to reclaim our creativity. Do the things that you used to do when you were a kid that you loved doing. It's a time to really come back to yourself and let yourself do things that bring you joy, that don't have anything to do with dating. Just take a minute and don't date, because you're just going to bring that energy with you of scarcity and of fear, and you're going to think, I should just get with this next person, just to make sure that I'm not alone, right? Your spirit is not, your spirit is going to tell you the truth, but your mind will sometimes lie to you. Your spirit knows that you're okay, but your mind will try to scare you into doing something so that you feel comfortable right now. It will lie to you and make you feel like you're not as safe as you are, or you're not as loved as you are, or you're not as resilient as you are, and so we need to take some time. Don't date with that energy. Just take some time away and tend to yourself. So, wrapping up, the real question we're asking ourselves, right, when we're trying to figure out if we should reconcile or if we should release that relationship completely, the real question we're asking is, which choice will help me to protect the healthy life I've built? And sometimes we need more information to make that choice, and that's when we can go into that sort of like healthy period of discernment, right, where we're still protecting ourselves and we're still managing our own independence and those kinds of things, but we're just kind of gathering that information, right? And other times we might just know right away it's not what we want to do. Sometimes we might reconcile and gather information and discover that the person we are now and the person that they are now actually do work really well together, because we are different than we were the first time, and that's great. That's great. And then you move into that new relationship with a new understanding, and a new commitment to healing. So if reconciliation is the answer, please go slowly and give yourself that period of time. And make sure that you're paying attention to what's really there and not what you hope will be there. And if the answer is to release, then release with grace. We don't have to release with bitterness. We can release with grace, and we can wish that person well, and we can be grateful for the love that we had, and the time that we spent together. So, question for you in the comments. Have you ever had an ex try to come back? And how did you make that decision about whether it was healthy or not for you to get back together? Did you decide to reconcile, or did you decide to release? And how did you make that decision? Let me know in the comments, and I'll meet you down there.